And there we are. Hello, hello, hello. We are live. Welcome to the Paddock Pass podcast. Or P3 as we like to call it. Well, I like to call it. I don't know about you. And I'm Jason.
I'm Nate.
And we're getting ready here for the Hungarian Grand Prix.
Is it the
Um,
Hungaring?
Hungering. We do have some interesting news that has come out today. Well, first of all, yesterday qualifying. I don't know about you, but there was definitely some unforeseen results there, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was a kind of a wild time. And we talked about this, a little bit earlier. Unexpected penalties handed out during qualifying. Between Hamilton and Antonelli, it was kind of an upset, and of course George Russell's issues with the car.
Yep.
Obviously, they just did the grid walk, so no grid penalty for him.
Correct.
So not an
I'm
upgraded
not
power unit,
I'm not
right?
exactly
What's the rule of that?
sure. I'm not exactly sure what my understanding of the rules was if you change out an engine part, you get a penalty. Not as heavy as a penalty if you exceed your allocation. So if you're new to Formula One or racing in general, in Formula One, the teams all have a certain allocation of parts that they can swap out with the car throughout the course of a season. Now, with the power unit, they're allowed four for a 24 race season. And apparently, George just put his fourth engine that he has in the car after qualifying yesterday, which means for the rest of the season, I'm sure if they've gone through four engines with 11 races, they're going to exceed that allocation. Lando Norris did last week at Spa. He had to take his fifth engine, which gave him a 10-place grid penalty. So that is sure to happen to George at some point throughout the rest of the season, but apparently there's no penalty as of right now. So he's still, was it seventh he's starting at?
I I believe it was seventh. I thought also, that some of the Parc Fermé rules would come into play there since
That's
you're
what I thought.
modifying the car. But I guess if it's not an upgrade, maybe I'm not sure. I'm not sure why. I thought if you touch the car at
Like,
all,
yeah, that's what
made
I
any
thought.
changes once
But I
or
guess
even
it's
before between practice and qualifying, right?
I guess as far as the engines go, as long as it remains in the same spec as the previous engine, that it's not actually changing anything. So
I don't not sure that they swapped out the whole power unit. I can't. I'm not exactly sure what happened there. So I thought what I had seen, on Instagram, that he had like the engine had been compromised. Like he cracked the block or
yep,
something like that,
it
and that
was
was
leaking
coolant that
water
was
or
leaking
fluid or
out.
something. So yeah.
So that would obviously you need a whole new engine for that. But if it was just a maybe a hose or something like that, I guess maybe we can get away with it. But it'd be interesting to see if we get any more information on that during this race.
So with the penalties that did come, we had Lewis Hamilton had a 3-place grid drop for impeding Oscar Piastri, which we didn't see on the live footage, but they did before the qualifying ended yesterday. After they had their little interviews on the podium, remember when Lewis said that his mind was elsewhere because he was concerned because he didn't know if he impeded or not. Well, they showed his onboard footage, and you definitely see when he was coming through one of the turns, he took the inside of the corner, and Oscar Piastri rolls right up behind him and had to come to almost a complete stop.
Yeah,
And
for sure. Interesting. Yeah, there was some audio. They had some of the team radio too, where he seemed a little surprised. So whether or not it was
yeah, Lewis even asked,
strategy,
he was like, is he on a flyer? He didn't even know.
mm-hmm.
That's
Ferrari strategy, or
yeah. That's to me. It seemed like a lapse in judgment on Lewis's engineer because it's literally his job to
yeah,
watch the track map and warn him of any cars that are coming up to him quickly when he's on a cooldown lap,
yeah,
and that didn't happen.
yeah. It was certainly an interesting outcome to that.
And then, of course, Kimi Antonelli also receives a 3-place grid penalty because Max Verstappen, once again, with that friggin' flipping rear wing, I mean, it's at this point, it's hard to know if it's 100% a technical issue or if he's just not deploying it correctly because let's the elephant in the room here. Isaac Hadjar is not having these same problems, even though he has the same car.
Yeah, there's something to be said for that for sure. Is it a driver thing? Is it is it him with the wing? Is it the wing design? You would think that you sent me kind of offline last night a graphic that really kind of goes through the whole. There's several teams that use that Macarena wing design, and what you sent me, it was a McLaren, Ferrari, and Red Bull.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're in that, and I think everybody else's system, that being Ferrari and McLaren, their system just looks stronger. Yeah. It looks more robust. It looks like it's a fairly small, narrow rod that controls the Red Bull wing. And you'd mentioned yesterday that it might not be able to overcome that.
You could definitely see in that design that the McLaren does have the outward flipping. Because right now the Ferrari is the only one that flips over the top. Both the McLaren and the Red Bull flip from underneath. But if you notice that little control rod that you just mentioned, that actuator that pulls it closed, the one on the Red Bull is at a much higher fulcrum than the one on the McLaren. It seems like it has better leverage because it's positioned lower.
Yeah, the system overall just looked a lot more robust. It looked like it was, it's an animated graphic, so who knows if it's what the scale is on it, but it looked, in that graphic anyway, like it was a far more robust, a stronger system.
I still maintain the biggest problem with that thing, the reason why Ferrari's works is because theirs flips from over the top to close, which means once it hits a certain point to like here, the flow of air over the wing is going to push it closed.
Yeah, it's assisting it. The other ones that open from the bottom.
Yes, they open from the bottom and have to come up, and then the air comes through, and the air is going to slow down that making a tight seal, which is going to be a downforce loss.
Yeah. Well, going back to like the driver aspect of it, you would think that Red Bull would just give Verstappen the car that he can perform the best in, right? Like, sure, maybe Isaac Hadjar doesn't have the same issues with the wing that Verstappen does, but he's their number one driver. I think that they should be, give him the car and the wing that suits his driving style, right? I mean, you're trying to put him on a podium, and he spun out a couple times this season.
It still finished fourth in qualifying yesterday, despite not even crossing the finish line.
It's not a driver talent issue, but that wing deployment. And I think, and
I've had people online, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
not at all. Go ahead.
I've had people online say like, oh, it's definitely a driver issue because he needs to close that wing faster before he enters the turn. And I've been like, I don't think you understand how that wing works because you manually activate it when you cross the straight line zone. But it's supposed to, if you choose to, you can manually close it. But what it's supposed to do is the minute you lift off the throttle or step on the brake, it snaps shut. And it's not doing it quick enough.
Yeah. Well, it could be, the difference between where he, I think it'd be interesting to see the telemetry on that, right? Between him and Isaac and see if it's he's going a little bit hotter into the corners.
If he's carrying more speed into the corners or trying to do, because we all know Max prefers to brake late. That's how he does so many overtakes in the corners, is he brakes late into the braking zones. And this style of wing with that downforce may not work.
Yeah, but you got to give him, especially with all the drama surrounding him and how vocal he's been about the car. You would think like, hey, it's just time to give the guy the wing design that he, that suits his driving style, and let's get him on the. Because the cars don't have to be exactly to spec. Obviously you saw that last week where
Yeah, they
Arvid
ran the old
Lindblad
spec.
got the Red Bull ran the old spec. Arvid Lindblad on the Racing Bulls got upgrades that Liam Lawson didn't get.
Mm-hmm.
So the cars they don't have to run two of the exact same car.
But despite all the Red Bull drama and what happened yesterday, the reason why we even got onto that tangent is because right after Max's spin, Kimi Antonelli came rolling through on his flyer lap to set his time, and apparently the yellow flag was out because Max was off. And now I've watched the onboard, I haven't seen the telemetry, but Kimi did lift for the yellow, but apparently the FIA determined he didn't lift enough. So traditionally, the standard penalty for ignoring a yellow flag is a 5-place grid penalty, but they kind of, I'm not sure the word I want to use, but they didn't slap his wrist as hard, basically, because they figured, okay, he did attempt to lift, but given the short notice and the limited space that he had, it wasn't enough. So rather than give him the full 5-place grid penalty, they gave him 3.
Yeah, that's the. I think that there's been some odd enforcement of the rules. Even last week, was it Leclerc that got a 5-second? No, yeah, it was Leclerc. Leclerc for impeding or his collision with Piastri last week, and then 4 or 5 days later they come out and say, okay, you should have had a 5-second penalty.
Yeah,
like it is, I guess, one of the more frustrating things to look at or with watching this sport is that, geez, you got to watch all week. You got to pay attention all week to figure out because, penalties are assessed whenever the FIA feels like it, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting in that regard. So, but, it didn't look like Antonelli he was on I believe it was the last turn or the second to last turn when that yellow came out. So.
Yeah, it was the final turn.
Mm-hmm.
He was right there, right before he had reached the final turn, the yellow came out because he was right behind Max when it happened.
And, I got to tell you, honestly, it might have been the right call to you look at it like a mistake, but he was out of the top 10 at that point, prior to that lap. So better to push up into fourth was what he originally had, and then take a 3-grid spot penalty.
Even a 5-grid spot.
Yeah, start at 11th. It's still a net gain.
Yeah.
For him.
I remember that reminds me of years ago, Max did something similar where he overtook somebody illegally. He went off track when he overtook them, but his pace was so much faster than the other cars that he was told to either give the position back or he would get a 10-second penalty. But with his pace, with his number of laps that were left, he was going to basically outrun the penalty anyway. So they were like, "Don't bother letting him by, just keep going." And he over the radio, he's like, "Yeah, that's fine. Send them my regards."
Yeah. Yeah. So sometimes, I guess, like you said, overall a net gain for Antonelli. He needed that, and there's no telling what if he'd slowed down properly, if that would have cost him even a top 10 start.
One last thing, because we're getting ready to get underway here. I think the formation lap is just a few moments away. One final thing we need to discuss is all the drama that happened with the races in the beginning of the season. Due to the conflict going on over in the Middle East, we missed both the Bahrain Grand Prix and the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix in Jeddah. That did not happen due to that. And now as of right now, we're still in question on whether or not Qatar and Abu Dhabi are even going to happen. But there was rumors that the FIA may try to use tracks that aren't currently on the calendar to replace some of the ones that were missed. As of early this morning, it has been announced that in October, between the Azerbaijan and the Singapore Grand Prix, we will be returning to Malaysia for the Malaysia Grand Prix at the Sepang International Circuit, which has not been on the Formula One calendar since 2017.
Yeah, I think another option they have is to rerun some tracks. I wouldn't mind seeing Spa again.
Well, the biggest issue, I've seen so many fans be like, oh, why don't they go here? Why don't they go there? Why don't they do this? And it's like, you have to understand the logistics about moving all of the stuff that these teams take all over the globe. Like, these races are set up months and months in advance.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if there isn't time to reroute and ship stuff to the other side of the planet, before the race comes, then it ain't happening. So, but I guess we're going to Malaysia, which is going to fit in right in between Azerbaijan and Singapore. So, but with that, we need to get over to the other screen because the formation lap is underway.
Post-race thoughts. Yeah, well, like I was saying, I think some teams made some interesting choices with the tires. I guess it really, at the end of the race, didn't make a huge difference except for Red Bull keeping Verstappen out on those ancient soft tires by the end.
I was completely questioning when I saw Lando come in, and then Kimi came in, and then Lewis came in. I'm like, oh, Max has definitely got to come in because he's on the softs. And then I saw on the transcriptions for the radio messages, GP was telling him, stay out unless the full safety car comes. I'm like, oh my god, they're keeping him out on these softs. But hey, that shows you why Red Bull has professional engineers, and I'm not one of them. Because I made the wrong call.
Well, they're receiving a lot of telemetry, right? So he was way slower than Norris. So, obviously not putting as much stress on those tires, not tearing them up as much. So, I mean, I guess if you can hold what you got, maintain the pace, and, given the predictive, whatever algorithm they run to predict the tire wear. Antonelli, though, like Kimi Antonelli going from 8th up to 3rd place.
Still can't keep that kid off the podium.
No, you can't, man. It won't. I won't be beat. I can't be beat.
Balboa!
Yeah, just, drove his tiny little buns off the whole race, and had Lewis Hamilton breathing down his neck for a good part of that. So.
And then Lewis with another penalty. And this one, honestly, this is a stupid penalty. Speeding in the pit lane. I mean,
it's a stupid penalty to incur.
That's what I mean. I don't mean, yeah. I'm not saying it wasn't deserved. I mean, the fact that he
last week he got penalized in the pits again, I think I don't know if it's a Lewis Hamilton problem or if it's Ferrari telling him when to get on the gas, because both of those things are about his, pushing down on the right pedal at the wrong time.
I mean, they have a pit limiter button on the steering wheel for a friggin' reason. You dive into the pits, you press that pit limiter button, that way your throttle can't go over a certain amount of RPMs, and you don't release that button until you've crossed the white line at the end of the pit lane.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's hard to say. Hard to say what's going on there. He's had a lot of penalties in the last 2 races, and that's really started to cost him. I know he's he's in the hunt for the championship. So, now is the time, going into the second half of the season to get really aggressive. I think maybe he's just getting on it a little too soon. I don't know.
So our final tally as it stands right now with no, I don't think there's going to be any penalties yet to come that could change the positions. But we have Lando Norris in P1, Max Verstappen P2, Antonelli in 3rd, and then Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton in 4th and 5th, Isaac Hadjar in 6th, George Russell 7th, Liam Lawson in 8th, Nico Hulkenberg in 9th, Arvin Lindblad in 10th, and Gabriele Bortoleto in 11th, just missing out on that point for 10th place. So almost a double points finish for Audi, but just missed it by 1.
Still, it's not quite their best finish, right? They've had a podium this year, I thought.
Audi,
Maybe
no.
not. No. Yeah, so the best finish for Audi this season.
I think so far. Yeah, I don't think I think it's the first time because Nico Hulkenberg has had a lot of retirements. Because I mean, Audi's still this is Audi's first year. I mean, everybody kind of forgets that because Audi was Sauber, they were like, oh well, you know, they just repainted the car and took on a new title sponsor. Like, no, they're also first time ever using that engine.
Yeah.
So they're almost in the same boat as Cadillac. They've had more time to develop the aerodynamics and the chassis and everything of the car because it is still the Sauber car with it, but it's got a whole new engine in it. So I think 9th and 10th is a really good result for them. Or
Yeah.
9th and 11th, I mean.
Well, anytime you can get close to the top 10, especially in your first season in a new car, I think it means you're on to something, right?
And then we have going further, obviously, we got Aston Martin making a decent showing this time, but you go further down the board. Hell with that. Friggin' Williams, oh my god. Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz, 17th and 18th, but Carlos Sainz doing some of the stupidest driving I have ever seen him do. Just almost completely taking out Oscar Piastri and himself for what? You know, he was in like 16th place, I think, at the time, and had a blue flag forever. What are you racing?
No,
Get the hell out of the way.
In his defense, I know they said they were having a lot of problems this race with the blue flags, the blue flag system. So
all he had to do was look in his mirror and see an orange car behind him and knew, I ain't racing this guy. I need to let him by.
Well, you know, and then he's got the team telling him that too, right? So it's interesting. There's very reserved comments from Max Verstappen.
Yeah, he knows he can't be as controversial as he used to be because last season the FIA started laying down all of these rules that, like, if you say anything against the FIA or against Formula One or swear or anything like that during interviews, then we're gonna fine you. So they basically censored him. But all right. Any closing thoughts?
Kind of an upset. I got to see. I saw Ferrari with at least one car on the podium for this. Didn't see. Mercedes was my dark horse for sure. So I think Antonelli always dangerous. Russell is always out there. Like, there's a lot of potential for him to do, I think, a little bit better than he did. I think the start really gave him a lot of problems, but I don't know that he had that Russell's car had the pace to keep up with anybody. Inside the top five. I certainly don't think he could have battled the Ferraris. I think the Ferraris, given a few more laps, Hamilton would have gotten around Antonelli. So just a way. It's all interesting. Interesting finish to it. Not the way, certainly from qualifying and practice, not the way I saw it going down. Didn't see Piastri jumping out and leading the race for as long as he did.
No, I certainly didn't see him DNFing either.
Yeah, shame that the car didn't hold up, but kind of an upset, I guess. But I guess that's what you get. It makes it a little more difficult to predict when you don't have Mercedes in the top three, in qualifying, starting in the top three grid spots.
Yep.
So, it throws off all my calculus, especially this season. So, like, they're either going to win or they're going to DNF. Like, there's no in between with those guys. So, what about you? How did you see it breaking down? And
I was at least, I honestly was expecting. I think going into this, I was expecting to see a Ferrari 1-2 or possibly 1-3 with Lando Norris tossed in there. That was what I
Fair,
was
yeah,
expecting. I
yeah,
was
absolutely.
full on expecting like Lewis Hamilton win, Lando Norris P2, Charles Leclerc P3, and the getting instead Lando Norris, Max Verstappen, and Kimi Antonelli all on the podium was like, okay, all right.
Yeah, I didn't see Verstappen taking a podium at all, especially after that last round of qualies. I thought like it was going to be he's just going to fight the wing
I
the
know.
entire race again.
After spinning
And
out on the
yeah,
final lap of quali, I'm like, Max is gonna go into this race pissed, and he's just gonna drive angry the whole time. And but he somehow, the strategy paid off, and he was able to turn P4 into P2. So as a Max Verstappen and Red Bull fan, I will take that all day long. But
yeah,
didn't see it coming. Other than that, I think the race was. Honestly, I thought it was pretty pedestrian because given the fact that this track is normally more more like a procession. There's so little overtaking here. The fact that the new 50/50 battery split allowed for some unusual overtakes, but because of that unpredictability, I expected there to be more incidents and possible at least a safety car or two, and it didn't happen. The only time we got any kind of disruption was with the virtual safety car when Oscar Piastri's gearbox kind of crapped itself, and that was it for him.
yeah. With as twisty as it is, I saw a lot more, like Spa's start where we just see a lot more bunching up in the corners,
Yeah.
a lot more contact than we saw. Potentially that's where I thought that Ferrari would get into trouble again. But Antonelli, going back to he was my dark horse in this just because he's Kimi Antonelli. And if I would have, if I had to put him on the podium, third is where I would have put him. I think the McLarens and the Ferraris this is track place of their advantages.
Mm-hmm.
Verstappen though, my gosh, I didn't even see him in the top five. Just a wild,
and it just shows you
great strategy.
It just shows you too. Isaac Hadjar is P6, so the fact that Max finished 4 places ahead of him, that's just 100% the driver.
Yeah, and while we're on that, I'd like to talk. I wish they had more coverage of the battle between Lawson and Lindblad because it sounded like it got really exciting there, and those last 10 laps with those guys. Lindblad ended up losing 2 positions, but I would have liked to seen. That's the one thing I'll say like about the coverage of the race is like they'll stick with like watching Lando Norris, Kimi Antonelli, and Max Verstappen, and there's a cumulative 15-second gap between Lando Norris and Antonelli. Like that's not where nobody's racing there.
Yeah.
I guess like the really a lot of the coverage on Antonelli was between Antonelli and Lewis Hamilton, but in 4 laps you're not going to make up a second and a half.
No,
and then plus the 5-second penalty. Like they should have gone back to those guys who are fighting in the that 10th through 5th position. I think that's where the racing is still happening.
That has been my biggest critique of the TV direction for Formula One for the last 2 seasons is they seem to 90% of the time prioritize the cars in the lead when they should be prioritizing the battling. Like if there's nothing going on at the front, show me the cars that are like bumper to bumper, wheel to wheel.
Well, yeah, and that's where everybody like started. The cars have challenges back there. That's where those those not necessarily top tier, but virtually top tier cars are going to run into, I think, their performance issues. And not necessarily the Racing Bulls. Very impressed. I don't know how they did last season, but they've had a car in the top 10. They've been in the points every race this season. So. Pretty impressive on that Red Bull development team.
I would have to fact check this. I'm just going off the top of my head, but I think Racing Bulls probably finished somewhere around 6th or 7th in the constructors because I'm pretty sure Williams finished 5th, and I know they were behind them.
Okay,
so
an improvement there.
Yeah,
right?
so
they're in the constructors. They're up there.
I mean,
where's Racing Bulls in the constructors now?
Currently, 6th.
Okay, so
They
they're I
are,
guess on par
well,
with.
they're probably going to move up to fifth because they were tied at 61 points with Alpine, but they both finished ahead of Alpine this
Yeah.
race. So because Alpine finished, Gasly finished 12th, and Colapinto finished 15th. So no points for Alpine this race, whereas Racing Bulls are going to get 4 points. So Racing Bulls is going to move up to fifth place in the constructors.
Nice. Yeah, so I guess always a contender. They must have even last season put guys in the put cars in the
And
top
we'll see in
10.
the last year too. I think the big reason why they're doing so much better this year is you've got Arvin Lindblad, who has stepped in to take the place of Isaac Hadjar,
Yeah.
and Liam Lawson is stepping up and producing and winning points almost every race this season. Whereas last season, he was finishing out of the points almost every race that he finished, which wasn't a lot of them. Isaac Hadjar, whatever, he was pretty much the only one winning points last year.
Yeah. Yeah, Lawson's performance this season I think has been fantastic.
Which is a shame because it's almost a dead certainty at this point that he's probably going to lose his seat to the what's his name there, the Romanian driver that's coming up in Formula 2.
Okay, yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, you know, a lot of potential, for him to go to one of these developing teams.
Yeah, I definitely think that it would be a shame to have him just lose the seat completely. I think he could, if Racing Bulls does let him go, and obviously he's not an Isaac Hadjar and he's not a Max Verstappen, so he's not going to get the seat in Red Bull back. But if they do bump him out of Racing Bulls, I mean, I think it would be a shame to keep him on as a reserve driver. I think he should be driving a car.
If you're consistently finishing in the top 10, you're one of the top 10 in all of F1.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think I'd be interested to see what he could do with a better car.
What do you think about this? They're already talking about Esteban Ocon losing his seat at Haas. And they've already talked about potentially bringing in Yuki Tsunoda, who is a reserve driver at Red Bull, to replace him because one of the major title sponsor for Haas is Toyota, and Toyota wants a Japanese driver in there.
Yeah.
What about Liam Lawson instead? I think he might be a better fit at Haas than Yuki would.
I think he's arguably a better driver than Yuki Tsunoda. It would be I think, like you said, like I was saying, it's like some of these developing teams that, there's a lot of old dudes in the back of the grid too. I mean, like Lance Stroll's in his mid-30s. Carlos Sainz is as old as Lewis Hamilton.
A couple years younger.
Okay, but he's 40,
Carlos
right?
Sainz is definitely like the third oldest driver on the grid behind Lewis.
Yeah, so there's some. There's some guys who may be looking at retirement. You got
Nico Hulkenberg. How long is he going to be at Audi?
Yeah, there's a. It'd be interesting to see Lawson next season at Audi because Audi seems to be getting their stuff in one sock. So they may be they beat a Racing Bull today.
Well, there could be some news within the next couple of weeks. Who knows? We might be completely wrong about this because there has been rumors and talk about Carlos Sainz potentially leaving Williams and being courted by Audi because Williams is not developing the car to where they should be. I mean, they went from being last place in 2024 to being fifth place in 2025 to now being right back at the bottom again in 2026.
Yeah. Well, so ideally, like I'd like to see Hamilton win the championship so he can so he can retire. Retires the greatest driver in F1 history and free up a seat.
I'll meet you halfway on that. I would definitely like to see Lewis Hamilton retire, but I really don't care if he gets another championship.
I don't, but my thought there is that he is going to drive until he is, I mean, like either really too old or he wins. You know, I think he's chasing another championship. And he's in striking distance now.
I guarantee you right now he's looking at like he's using as the benchmark the fact that Fernando Alonso is still there doing it. Because Fernando Alonso is going to turn I think he's going to turn 45 soon. He's like 4 to 4.5 years older than Lewis. So Lewis is thinking if Fernando can stay in, so can I.
Well, Fernando can hang at the back of the grid. I mean, yeah, if that's, yeah, I just I don't know, man. There's such a bottleneck in F1. You know that, and I'm sure it's like that in the NBA. You know, people want LeBron James to retire, so you know, but there's such a talent disparity in other sports.
I mean, you have so many different feeder leagues between F4, F3, F2 to get up to Formula One, but then there's only 22 seats. Yeah,
so you know every year you hang over 40 is you're jamming up, you know.
I guarantee you right now there's probably a dozen young drivers that have never gotten a chance in Formula One just because guys like Lewis and Fernando are still there.
Yeah, and you know, it's still Lewis Hamilton's still lighting up the track, you know. Not the worst, but certainly not. This is a constructors. I don't see as Red Bull Ford. I didn't see. I guess they call. I don't know. Sorry, I was distracted. They had the constructors points.
Oh.
And, well, before this race, didn't have Racing Bulls broken out on it.
Oh, Red Bull is currently sitting in 4th. So. If Red Bull's not gonna overtake McLaren with their outfinish today, so Racing Bulls getting the points that they got are gonna put them one place behind Red Bull, 4th and 5th.
Hey, not too shabby. But you know, you also have the Verstappen rumors. Where's Verstappen gonna go?
I honestly don't think he's going to go anywhere. If he does say enough's enough, I'm sick of Red Bull, I'm sick of dealing with all this crap, they're not providing me the car that they want, then he's just going to skip out.
I think if he leaves Red Bull, he leaves F1.
He's never going to get the freedom to race in other classifications like he does with another team because they're never going to allow him to risk himself somewhere else.
Yeah. So, yeah, interesting. And, you know, it'd be interesting to see what how Mercedes feels about George Russell.
Yeah. George seems to say, my seat is secure. I'm still going to be here in 2027. But every driver would say that, even if they are in risk.
Yeah. And, you know, at this point, I really think there's a little bit of favoritism that we're seeing. So it doesn't seem like Mercedes is prioritizing him.
Normally, you would say a team is never going to sabotage their second driver because they need the second driver to win the constructors. But at this point, Mercedes has the constructors wrapped up. They're like 150 points ahead of Ferrari. So it doesn't hurt them to mess with George a little bit.
Yeah, you know, and I mean, obviously he's a very solid driver. I just don't know that I don't think Liam Lawson is better than George Russell. But you know, I think he's another guy who's like seat is if you see a shakeup, like I think you see, you know, potential to see George Russell move out of Mercedes. I'm not sure who they'd bring in though to replace him if they can't get Verstappen or you know. I don't think they'd pick Liam Lawson.
I don't know who the Mercedes even has. And like Mercedes has their own development program in like Formula 2 and stuff. But in the past, when they've brought people up from that, you know, development program, they've had them drive at one of their customer teams. Like that's where George Russell came from. When George Russell first came up from Formula 2, for the first season or so, he raced at Williams. And then when they released Valtteri Bottas from Mercedes, they brought him up to fill the seat in 2021. Or actually in 2022. 2021 was the last year that Valtteri Bottas raced at Mercedes, and then they brought in George to replace him. And he's been there ever since. He was the number 2 to Lewis, and then when Lewis left, then now he's become the number 1 guy who is basically taking a back seat to the number 2 guy.
He's not their number 1 guy. Interesting. I mean, there's a lot of be interesting to see as we close out the season. Still a lot of season left. I mean, George Russell still could win the championship.
I mean, we still have
Lewis Hamilton could still win the championship.
We still have potentially 12 races, and after the next 3 weeks, we're going to have 4 more months of racing to go, so anything could happen.
Yeah. And the way, I think Mercedes is eating their cars, they're going to have a lot of more midfield starts.
I think a lot of people are. I don't think we're being reported on. Like, every time you turn around when a car needs a new engine or a new battery, you're finding out that it's the last one that they have. So how many of these teams have gone through all of their allocation for parts to even get to the halfway point in the season?
Yeah. So, I think you see a lot of room to have that, the point standing now disrupted. Where's Verstappen in the points? 7th? 6th?
Max is 7th. That'll definitely go up now because Oscar Piastri was in 6th and he was only a point behind Oscar. So Oscar gets no points for this race and Max is going to get 20.
Yeah, so he's in 6th. Who's in 5th? Lando? Not Lando. Is it Lando?
Just closed it. So first is Kimi, second is Lewis, third is George, fourth is Charles, 5th is Lando, 6th was Oscar, and 7th was Max.
Yeah, so I mean, still, it would be tough, but Verstappen's overcome, I think, bigger points deficits, right? Lewis Hamilton's at the front. Lando Norris not out of the hunt yet either.
Lando might actually jump to 4th place here because he was 23 points behind Charles Leclerc.
Oh, Leclerc finished 4th.
He finished off the podium, which is going to be a significant points difference between him and Lando. Lando winning and Charles finishing out with no podium.
Well, the win is worth what? 24 points?
24 or 26. I can't remember.
All right, let's say it's 26. And then 4th place is worth. I don't think it's enough to bump. I don't think it's enough to bump Leclerc.
Let me see what
Leclerc.
the points. All right, first place is 25 points. Second place is 18. Third is 15. Fourth is 12. So you're going to have a 13-point swing between Lando and Charles.
Yeah, so closes the gap for sure, but
and
still, you're 1 DNF.
So Charles is going to maintain a 10-point lead on Lando.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess my overall point that between 2nd place to 7th place is not a huge. It's not a big gap at all. No. And then it's a long season. Antonelli's on fire now. If he loses, a couple of DNFs, his championship's gone.
Indeed.
And the competition that's in his rearview mirror, I think, is just too tough to. Not that I'm wishing anything on him. Love to see the kid win. Certainly don't want to see that, but I'm just saying, there's a lot of season left.
I know you were saying earlier in the season when we talked about it, you were thinking that the worst thing that could happen for Kimi Antonelli is for him to win this year because it's only his 2nd season, and you think it would be too much too soon.
There's some that you would have thought though that would kind of hold true with as dominant as he's been this season. It just doesn't seem to be affecting him. You know what I mean? I don't know what kind of sports psychology coach they have or, how they've developed him as a driver, but he's cool as a cucumber, man. It's bizarre how unbothered he is
To
to stand on
me,
a podium.
when I
He
see
does.
him, when I hear him on the radio in the car, and I see him in interviews and everything, he legitimately seems like a kid that just is having fun and just wants to win. He's not thinking about the championship. He doesn't care about any of that. He just wants to win races.
Yeah. And so what is it? Where he DNF'd, not at Spa, at Silverstone?
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
No.
DNF'd. No, one before Silverstone.
Yeah.
It was before Silverstone. At any rate, like, he was, he was pretty affected by that. I think anybody that DNFs, like they don't do a lot of coverage, but it looked like he was
especially if you DNF because of the reliability of the car. The car
Yeah.
just fails you because it's at no fault of your own. And it's like
George Russell.
I had a chance here and the car just crapped out on me. I'm pissed.
Yeah, George Russell's been crushed by that 2 or 3 times this season. So
yeah, Canada and then
Canada, Silverstone, and
then qualifying
Spa.
yesterday.
Yeah. And
then of course Lewis taking him out at Spa.
Well, honestly, we'll go back to that. George says it's a car problem. He had some battery problems, and then the power unit failing this time. So probably,
And
we'll see.
What I maintain with that, like, here's what I don't understand. If you watch the onboard from that accident at Spa and you slow it right down, Lewis is on the inside of the corner.
Mm-hmm.
He's right on the curb. To his right immediately is the gravel trap. George is right beside him. And then as they progress into the apex of the corner, George is turning in. Their tires catch. They get hooked. George loses the car, spins out. And then he blames Lewis. Where's Lewis supposed to go?
Well, yeah, I don't think George blamed Lewis. I think the FIA did, but you're right. And number one, I think, for George to try that maneuver, I think he had more power available to him than he did. And so he just petered out.
Because Lewis, you normally in that situation, if you're the car that is behind going into the apex, you have 2 options. You either go off track to avoid contact, or you back out of the throttle and let the car take the corner and you get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first lap of the race. Everybody's all bunched up. If Lewis backs out, he gets hit from behind. If he goes off track, he's in the gravel trap. He literally has no place to go.
Yeah, no options. So I thought it was a silly penalty for him. Just not a lot of opportunity for him to bail out. And I think George Russell had thought at that point in the race he had more car than he had. And
in a perfect world, he should have. As the first lap, he should have more car.
Yeah. So that was he should have been, out in the front, from the lights. Mm-hmm. And he got swallowed up by the pack because he just didn't have the car that race. So but it'd be interesting, I think that going back to the championship, I think it's too close. It'd be interesting to see if Antonelli can be as dominant through the rest of the season as he has been. As long as he stays on the podium, he's gonna win the championship.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think the second half of the season we'll see these reliability issues come into these cars, and I think the front of the grid will undergo some changes from what we've seen at the beginning of the season.
All right.
Hopefully it's early teething pains for Mercedes and George Russell. Like, hopefully they can get his stuff sorted out and he can have a stronger, not that he hasn't had a great first half of the season. He has, he's still at 3rd place, but we'll see.
All right. All right. I think that's pretty good. I think we can wrap it up from here.
Yes, sir.
So, and who knows, I may even go back in the editing and cut this whole section of the post-race stuff off and make it a whole separate recorded video.
Yeah, for sure. Its own. Absolutely. I think the post-race discussion's fun,
Yeah.
Interesting.
Get some impressions on what we saw and where we think we're going. So, if you are watching this now, then I guess the next time, we may have some more, not some more live stuff, but we may record a few more things within the next coming weeks, because obviously there's going to be news now that quote-unquote silly season is upon us. Who knows where we're gonna go from here? But the next race isn't until Zandvoort, which is in the last week of August. So we're gonna have about 3 weeks here with no actual racing going on. So the next live stream will be then. So until then, just keep an eye out, and we'll see what we can produce in the meantime. So until then, I hope you enjoyed the Hungarian Grand Prix. My name is Jason.
I'm Nate.